Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Katia Vale, Schools and Exams Marketing Manager, and I'm talking to you from our Cambridge office in São Paulo. I would like to know where you are joining from. I see already some people here in the chat. Egypt, we have somebody from Egypt. That's wonderful. Thank you for joining. Kelly from Santana, Guarulhos, Tremembé, Porto Velho, em Rondônia, Vitória da Conquista, Londrina, Florianópolis. It's so good to see so many teachers from all over Brazil here with us. This week we have been delivering a series of webinars. If we can go to the next slide, please. You will see 2 QR codes. Please, our dear speaker, can you help? Yes, thank you. On the left, you have a QR code that will lead you to our Cambridge Brazil YouTube channel, where you will find several webinar recordings. And on the right, you have a QR code to enroll for future webinars. Tomorrow, we still have a webinar for those who teach adults. And then we close this series in September, but we will have some more in October, so please stay tuned. I invite you to follow us on social media. If we can go to the next slide. We are communicating all these webinars and we have several Cambridge updates, especially in Instagram. A little bit of housekeeping before we begin. Please send your questions to our speaker in the Q&A tool. By the end of this presentation, in the chat, you will see a link for feedback. And at the end of the feedback form, you will be able to download your certificate. The webinar is going to be recorded, and the recording will be soon available in our Cambridge Brazil YouTube channel. And today we have the honor and the privilege of having Rebecca Rios with us. Rebecca has been transforming lives through English for 17 years. She has the CELT-P, TESOL, and TESOL for Children, and all TKT certifications, as well as the C1 Advanced. She has been a bilingual program coordinator and is currently a teacher trainer in Campinas. She's also a Google educator and trainer, completely in love with educational technology. Welcome to our webinar, Rebecca.
Thank you, Katia. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. I hand over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Katia, for this invitation. Thank you, everybody that's joining from Brazil, from countries all over the world. It is a privilege and an honor and a big responsibility for me to be here talking about sustainability in the ELT classroom. I personally am very fond of this topic in ELT. I have done lots of projects with my students when I was in the classroom. I like to make my students go a bit further and think not only about themselves, but about other people. And today we're going to talk about sustainability in the ELT classroom, making a positive change in the world. So as Katia introduced me, whoops, where's my mouse? There we go. She's already read my mini bio there, but I'm also a mother. I have 2 daughters. Elena is 9 years old and Eloisa is 4 years old. And ever since I became a mom, I wanted to make the world a better place because I'm leaving this world to my daughters. So I'm very fond of top topics that are going to take care of the world, are going to make the world a better place. So when we think about sustainability, let's see our agenda today. We're going to talk about what is sustainability. You've probably heard it many ways. We're going to talk about the dictionary definition and what Cambridge understands by sustainability and how we can use it in English language teaching. We're going to explore the Cambridge Sustainability Framework for ELT. I don't know how many of you have seen this framework, but it's really exciting and really, how can I say it? It's very objective in how you can bring these topics to your class. Then we're going to talk about some practical strategies for implementing sustainability in the English language classroom or English language teaching, our takeaways, and at the end we'll have a moment for Q&A. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please drop them in the Q&A box, and then at the end I'll be happy to respond and reply to you. I won't be able to see the chat as much, but if Katja, if you see something worthwhile, please interrupt me and we can discuss this. But
Deal.
I will, yes. Okay, deal. Yeah, okay. But I will ask a question in the beginning that I would like for you to put in the chat box, okay? So we're gonna start with my question to you. Before I give you the answer, I want to see your replies first. What is sustainability? For you, what do you understand by it? What do you think it means? What is sustainability? I'll ask you guys to drop in the chat box. It doesn't have to be a long definition. It could be a short definition. It could be a word that represents for you sustainability. So please write in the chat box, what do you think is sustainability? Let me see if we have any answers in the chat so far. Not yet, but I would love to see your replies here. And what is sustainability? Big question. Yeah, it's a big question. Preserve and save our planet Earth. Kelly Maria Silva. Thank you very much. Yeah. What else? Use the natural resources in an intelligent way. Maybe can be one definition. Very good, Hilda. Good job. Let's see if we have another definition. Anybody else? Take care of our planet and its resources. Very good, Ana Pereira. Excellent. Well done, you guys. If you have any other definitions, in one word, I would say balance. Lorena, I like that very much. Balance, I like that. So when we're thinking about sustainability, I have to go to the Cambridge Dictionary and see what is the definition from the Cambridge Dictionary. So according to the Cambridge Dictionary, sustainability, there are two definitions for it. So one is the quality of being able to continue over a period of time, the long-term sustainability of the community. So in the sense of being sustainable. But in recent years, there has been also another definition, which is mostly what you guys said regarding the environment. So the quality of causing little or no damage to the environment and therefore able to continue for a long time. The company's commitment to environmental sustainability. So there are a couple of different definitions for it, and there are different kinds of sustainability. The one that we are most used to is the environment, the one that is most pressing at the moment. But there actually are other kinds of sustainability, like economic sustainability, social sustainability. But the most popular one is environmental sustainability. How do we explain this to a 12-year-old? Can we explain this to an older primary learner or even a younger primary learner or to a secondary learner? How do we explain to a 12-year-old? So I asked my friend ChatGPT to give me a definition of how could I explain what is sustainability to a 12-year-old. So it says sustainability is like taking care of the earth. just like we take care of our favorite toys or pets. It means making sure we don't use up all of the resources and keep the planet healthy for a long, long time. You see, I can explain a very complex concept in a very simple way so that a child or a teenager can understand in their world what that means. What does it mean to be sustainable or sustainability? This is a nice exercise just to kick off sustainability in your classroom. If you've never worked with sustainability in your classroom, just kick it off with your students. Like, what do you think is sustainability? They've probably heard the word. Maybe if you want to try to start in L1 and say, oh, if you speak Portuguese, say, oh, o que é sustentabilidade? They've probably heard this word before. They might talk about eco bags or reusable water bottles or not use plastic cups. They might give you practical definitions, and then you guys can make your classroom definition of what is sustainability. So it's a good way to kick it off. How do we start with what is sustainability? What's the definition? Now that we know what sustainability is, let's see, do you think teaching sustainability is important? Do you think that this is important at the moment that we are living now in our society? Is this a very important topic? So, according to the World Economic Forum, environmental stewardship, which is taking responsibility to take care of something, will be one of the 5 top skills companies will be looking for in the future. So the World Economic Forum went after all the big companies around the globe, and they said, can you tell us what are the top skills, the top 5 skills you will look for in your future employees? And then number 4 was environmental stewardship. So companies in the future will be looking for people to work for their companies who have awareness, who take responsibility, who want to take care of the environment. So it is a pressing topic. And then we also have the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations. If you've been to other Cambridge webinars, you've probably seen a couple of these already. We have our lovely Viviane Camiliani, who's always bringing the SDGs to talks on Cambridge Days and other webinars. So if you look at these, the SDGs talk about all kinds of sustainability, but look at how many of them talk about the environmental sustainability, right? So clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land. So all of these, almost half of them, are regarding environmental sustainability, and the others are regarding social and economic sustainability. So it is very important. It is a topic that is very important, that is very pressing at the moment. So how can we understand sustainability in English language teaching? In the English language classroom, is there space for sustainability? Can we put sustainability in our classrooms? How do we bring that, especially to younger learners like primary or secondary learners? So I always say that teaching English is so much more than just a language. I don't know if it's because the way I learned English. So I learned English in a very immersive way, in a very English as a second language. I moved to the United States when I was 8 years old. I lived from 8 to 11 in the countryside of New York. So when I learned English, it was all very relevant because I was learning content and I was learning a second language as well. So for me, it was very, very relevant. And when I became an English teacher, I wanted my students to feel that English was relevant to them. So I feel that teaching English is so much more than just a language. We're giving them a tool for communication. And when we think about sustainability, these skills of communication are so important for them to discuss, to understand, and to take action in sustainability issues, right? We also, in this case, we also work with critical thinking and problem solving. So when I bring my students an issue, an environmental issue or a social issue, an economical issue, and I ask them to come up with a solution, they have to analyze this problem, and they're also going to have to think about a solution. So they're going to work with problem solving skills as well. And when we work with sustainability, we're also talking about teaching our students to be more empathetic, to have empathy, and have an intercultural competence. Because when I think about the problems that affect Libya, that affect Europe, that affect the United States, that affect Asia, that affect the rest of Africa, I see that the world is so much more than just my cell phone, my classroom, my school, my city, my country. It's so much more than that. And we're all part of the humankind society. So these are three things that are very important to keep in mind when we work with sustainability in the English language classroom. So we're giving them a tool, we're teaching them how to be critical thinkers and to problem solve, and we're also teaching them how to be empathetic and have this intercultural competence. And what can be some aims for teaching sustainability in the classroom? So first of all, we can empower our students to engage with global issues. So if my student knows how to speak English, he can take part in watching a video about global warming. He can discuss what world leaders are deciding. He can listen to a UN conference. So we give them the tools and the sense of responsibility for them to take action. We can also prepare them for the real world. We're going to give them knowledge to talk about these pressing global challenges. We're going to give them repertoire for them to talk about these issues in English. We're also going to foster global citizenship. This is one of the things that I love most about teaching English. When you teach English, when your students learn, you open the doors to the world to these students. I love Cambridge's new brand, which says where your world grows. When we learn English, our world expands enormously. So we have contact with other cultures, we have contact with other accents. We see that sometimes our struggles are different, but sometimes our struggles are equal. We can be more empathetic with other people. So we become global citizens, and we're going to teach our students to think beyond their immediate communities. And it's also one of the aims, it could be career relevance. So as I said, the biggest companies in the world in the next coming years in the future will be looking for employees who have environmental stewardship. So people who take responsibility in taking care of the environment. So these are the aims for sustainability in the English language classroom. So for Cambridge University Press, sustainability is not just environmental, it encompasses the knowledge, the skills, and attitudes we need to ensure a fairer, brighter future for people and the natural world, because it takes these three parts: the social, the economic, and the environmental sustainability. And then you're probably thinking, okay, Rebecca, you've talked about how important it is, how employers are going to look for this in their future employees, how it's good for students. But the question is, how do I start? Or where do I start? If I want to start working with sustainability in my classroom and I've never done it, where do I start? And I'm going to show you in the Cambridge Sustainability Framework for English Language Teaching. This is a framework developed by Cambridge. It is available to you online. You can just type Cambridge Sustainability Framework. It's a PDF. You can download it. I don't know if people from Cambridge, if they're going to share it, share the link here in the chat box. If you want, you can just Google it. It's very simple to find, and it's something that's very valuable if you've never worked with sustainability in your classroom before. So I'm going to show you the whole frame, and then we're going to show you some specific parts and how we can use this in a very practical way. So sustainability framework for ELT is this wheel. It has four dimensions, which are knowledge, values, transformation, and innovation. And these four areas, they have three core areas. So in these dimensions, they have three core areas. So first we start with knowledge, right? How our students understand sustainability. And this framework is for environmental, social, and economical sustainability. It has more things for environmental, but it also works with the social part as well in our relations with other people. So first we're going to understand what is sustainability. We're going to think about systems, appreciate interdependence in a world where people are very self-involved with their cell phones and their technology and their remote jobs. How do we become interdependent again? How do I understand that I need you and you need me, right? Then we go to values, which are, what do you believe in? What are you willing to fight for? What are your beliefs? What are your values? How do we value the people around us and the wider natural world, as well as caring for oneself and for others? And then we go to innovation. How are we going to create things? How are we going to come up with solutions? How are we going to create new ideas and explore perspectives? And then reach the transformation dimension, which is, how do we understand agency? Do I have to wait for world leaders, or can I take action? How do we work together as a community, as a society, as mankind? And how do we make a positive change in the world? And this is, I think it's made in a circle, so it always starts again. So you get some knowledge, you discover your values, think about solutions, cause a transformation, then acquire more knowledge, and it becomes a cycle. So from this, we can already have lots of insights of what we can do in our English classrooms to teach sustainability. But Cambridge went beyond that, and they gave us many components in each one of these core areas. So I brought you first in the knowledge area. So we have, each of them has three main topics, and these topics have four components. I'm not going to show you all of them. You can download it later. I'm just going to show you a couple of them so you understand what Cambridge is proposing here and how you can come up with ideas with this framework. So recognizing the environmental, social, and economic dimensions of sustainability. So it's that, what is sustainability to you? Is sustainability only environmental? Is it social? What is economic sustainability? How can we achieve it? What does that mean for you? What does that mean for our country? Engaging with information data relating to sustainability and regeneration. So we have lots of information, lots of news. How do we know what to use? How do we know what is fact? How do we relate to that? How do we take that, what we're seeing that's happening in Europe, and understand what's going to happen in Brazil? Identifying and understanding obstacles to sustainability. So, are we being a sustainable society? No, why not? What are the difficulties? Oh, we have people consuming too much production, too much pollution, too much manufacturing. They can come up with these ideas and understand these obstacles in sustainability. And also, you can broaden the discussion and include underrepresented voices. So normally people who wouldn't get a voice today because of the internet and social media, you can give voice to those people who sometimes are a smaller group or are suffering in silence, and give them a voice. So that's the knowledge part. What do we know? We need our learners to understand what is sustainability first. And then we go to values. What is important to for each student regarding sustainability? So understanding beliefs and values. So what's a value for you? What's important to you? It's important for people to have a dignified way of life. It's important for me to be able to go to the beach and enjoy my vacation because the beach is clean. So, and then how do we contribute to sustainable and unsustainable behaviors? What are we doing that is sustainable? What are we doing that is unsustainable? I did a project with my students a couple of years back, working with our plastic consumption. So we had a plastic calculator, and they calculated how much plastic they consumed in a year. And some students were really surprised. They had no idea they were using hundreds of kilos of plastic every year. So we promote this self-reflection of, are we being sustainable or are we being unsustainable? And then we can examine our own behaviors, sharing one's own sustainability beliefs and values. How do I share this with people? How do I pass it on to people? We have a very beautiful example of an environmental activist with it, which is Greta Thunberg. So she is an activist. She's very young. She started as like a child, doing protests and saying what she believed in and influencing thousands of people around the world. And then we go to innovation. So what can we do differently? What alternatives can we create? So we can imagine an alternative future. Children, teenagers, they love doing that. How, if we continue to do this now, what's going to happen in 10 years? How could we do it differently? Recognizing opportunities for positive transformation and identifying sustainable alternatives, or innovating for sustainable development as well. So we're going to have them here in this stage create new things, right? And then comes the transformation. So making a positive change. What are the impacts of our actions? So how do we act as a global citizen? What does that mean to be a global citizen? There's a responsibility there. Holding self and others to account. I love this word that we don't have a translation for in Portuguese, which is accountability. We have to be accountable. We have to have accountability into our responsibility in taking care of the environment. Promoting a culture of peace and non-violence. This is more regarding to social. And then taking action towards a sustainable future for all. So these components are already so rich. You can see and have so many ideas here of what you can do regarding sustainability in your English language classroom. Each of these components could be one class. You could have sustainability classes for the whole year using this. And then sometimes our creativity is not the way that we would like it to be. Sometimes we need a little help, right? And how do I, in a practical way and in a structured way with my class planning, how do I implement sustainability in ELT? So today I'm going to share with you a bit about the Cambridge Global Changer collection. I don't know how many of you know this collection, but this is a very Brazilian inspired material. The authors are Brazilian. There is a partnership with Instituto Ayrton Senna for this material. It is very, very culturally relevant to Brazil. And I don't know if you were at Cambridge Day this year in July, but Viviane Kermiliani, who is one of the authors of Global Changer, she talked about cultural differences and accepting other cultures. And one thing that really struck me was you can't respect other cultures if you don't know your own culture. And sometimes we as Brazilians, we are not very familiarized with our own culture. We're such a vast country with such a vast culture, and we don't know our own culture. So this is a very, very culturally relevant material designed for secondary students. So they're going to really understand different parts of culture, talk about economic sustainability, talk about social sustainability, and also environmental sustainability. There are student books, workbooks, extra resources, projects. It's a very, very delightful material that you can, I myself as a teacher, when I saw this at the launch in 2021, I said, oh, I want to teach with this book because it's very, very captivating and it feels like it's been made for us in Brazil. So we're going to talk a bit about Global Changer. I'm going to show you how they've taken these concepts and these components from the Cambridge Sustainability Framework and put that in with such relevant context in the material from Global Changer. So let's take a look. I don't know if this gray bar is showing up for you. I wish it weren't. There, I think you can see it now. So this is from Global Changer 2. It's a 4-volume, so from 6th to 9th grade. It's a 4-volume series. So this is from volume 2, so which would be like 12, 13-year-olds. And then at the end of unit 2, they talk about a white sand beach that's not white. The sand is not white. And then at the end of the text, they're talking about beach in Hawaii. And at the end of the text, they say that the sand is very special because it's made from lava, from the volcanoes. And then they say that you can't take it away, right? You can't bring the sand with you, right? You can't take it with you. So you don't want to make it's called Pele, the protector of volcanoes. You don't want him to get mad at us, right? So we enjoy nature and we take home good memories and amazing photos, but not it. And then there are some exercises with this text, but then look at this. Remember I said about the critical thinking? It says, why is it not okay to take home objects you find in nature as souvenirs? Imagine you helping your students to reflect on this and say, why is it not okay to take these objects? In Brazil, I don't know if you guys know, but it is law that you are forbidden to take seashells from the beach in Brazil. And then my daughter used to collect them. And when we found this out, I said, wow, we can't do this anymore. And I had to explain to her, not because it's a law, but because we disrupt the ecosystem when we take things away. So imagine you having your students think about their own sustainability behaviors. So when you go to a park, to hiking, to a forest, to the beach, why is it not okay for you to take nature as souvenirs and have them reflect on that? So that would be understanding how our beliefs and values contribute to sustainable and unsustainable behaviors, and when we examine our own sustainable behavior. Another way you can talk about sustainability is showing the beauty of places around the world. So I'm going to show you a video. This is from Global Changer 1. It's almost the last unit from the book. And then we're going to talk about how these places are important, right? So we're going to watch the video, see how exciting it is for teens.
Our amazing world. Our world is full of natural wonders. Let's take a look at a few of them. There's Guanabara Bay, the harbor of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. It has islands, mountains, and jungle all in one place. It took thousands of years for the bay to form. But this volcano in Mexico, Paricutin, formed in just one day. After 24 hours, it was almost 50 meters high. Incredible! The Grand Canyon in Arizona in the United States is 446 kilometers long and up to 29 kilometers wide. Did you know that it makes its own weather? It can be very hot or very cold all on the same day. The Great Barrier Reef in Australia is about 2,600 kilometers long. You can see it from space. Did you know that the Great Barrier Reef is alive? It's made of coral, a type of very small sea animal. There are many more amazing places like this on our planet. But you don't have to travel thousands of miles to see beautiful nature. You can see natural wonders in your backyard or in the park in your city. Just go outside and open your eyes. What natural wonders do you see every day?
Isn't that amazing how we can show our students the wonders across the globe, starting with our very own in Brazil? So as I told you, the material is very culturally relevant, but also we can go all the way to Australia and see that's so beautiful. But did you know that because of global warming, the coral is dying, or because of pollution, the fish are dying? So it makes us more aware of the impact when we see something that's so beautiful and we want to preserve it. And then at the end, he says, but you don't have to go that far. What about your community? So it's about being sustainable for the whole world as well as for our community. So there are videos like this. And then this video is part of the opening page of Unit 8 from Global Changer 1. And then again, the critical thinking. It says, look at the picture, what is he or she doing? And then it says, so if you look, they're going to talk about, oh, he's planting something, he's cultivating a tree or some kind of plant. And then number 2 says, what small things can we do to help nature? Again, we're going to problem solve, we're going to come up with solutions or recognize the opportunity for a positive transformation. What are small things? You don't have to start with big things. You don't have to save the whole world. What are small things that we can start with? So imagine preteens and teenagers thinking about this and how small changes. When we were talking about sustainability, I shared with my students that if you leave your charger plugged on the outlet the whole day, it consumes energy, even if it's not connected to your cell phone. So something so small as removing your charger from the outlet, from the outlet on the wall during the day can save energy and can help the environment. It's a sustainable measure. So small little things. Take smaller showers. Don't waste water. Use a reusable water bottle. Use an eco bag. Don't use plastic bags at the supermarket. So they're just small things that we can do to help nature, right? And they'll come up with even more fantastic ideas. And this part is the part that I get most excited. I'm a person that loves to do projects with my students. I love making things real, making things practical, having something that is concrete for students. So in each Global Changer book, there are 2 projects, so one for each term, more or less, that are going to kind of connect and review what they've seen in other units. So this is project 1 from Global Changer 3, and it's a project where they're going to write a persuasive text. So you might look at this and see this is just 2 pages, but there's so much to unpack here. So it says, create an infographic about your school's carbon footprint. So first, we're going to work with writing a persuasive text. We're going to talk about a genre that is an infographic. Maybe your students don't know what that is. So what is an infographic? Bring that definition, work with your students, something that has images and text that is very highlighted for people to take note, right? It's not just an essay. There are images and other highlighted features. So that it's going to give you an example of an infographic, and then going to give you some exercises, and then the project task. So we're going to unpack this together. So here we go. So the infographic is very strong. It says time is running out. Catastrophic climate change is here. So do we want to make a big difference in our future? Do something now, reduce our school's carbon footprint. So you see, this infographic that is shown as an example is a very persuasive text. So what kind of words are they using? What is the central verb tense that they're using, right? They're using a lot of imperatives, right? Do something now, reduce our school's carbon footprint. Look at how much vocabulary you can teach your students in such a relevant way, and in a way that they're going to use it to influence society and their peers. So it says, the critical thinking part says, is reducing your carbon footprint a priority in your community? So look at that. Why not? Let's think as a class. Let's think as a school. Are we trying to reduce? What are the things that we're using here? Are we using safe and reusable energy? Is everybody coming by cars? I remember I did a project many years ago that we needed to think about ways for our school to be more sustainable. And my students came up with a carpool system. I worked in a small town, and everybody went with their own car. And they came up with a carpool system where they mapped out like which student from the class lived where and who could pick up who. So they reduced by half the number of cars coming to the school. So look at that. Students taking action, thinking about what they do, their actions and the consequences, right? So in this infographic, there are images. We are giving them imperatives. So here, what are the components we're working from the framework? Understanding social and environmental responsibilities. It's our responsibility. It's not just the governor, the mayor, the president, world leaders. We have to consider the welfare of present and future generations as well. So are we going to do something now, right? This one for me is big. I want to leave the world better for my children. And I bet you guys also want to leave the world better for your children or for your students. And they will want to leave it better for their children. So thinking about the welfare of the present and future generations. And then we're going to have the project, which is writing a persuasive text. So see, they've done many units talking about what's beautiful. They've talked about the imperatives, and then now they're going to put it all together and write a persuasive text. So the project is create an infographic about your school's carbon footprint. So look at the plan, right? Find out if your school's what about your school's carbon footprint. Search for and use an online calculator. So this is where you can calculate what is your carbon footprint. So you're going to calculate, do you recycle? Do you save energy? Do you use plastic cups? So many things that are going to be in this calculator. So they're going to learn and have this data, this information of how much, what is our carbon footprint and how we can make it smaller. Then they're going to think about the design of their infographic and look for images that they can use. So it can't just be writing, there needs to be picture. Write a first version of the text. Remember to include information about the school, the areas of impact, the school's carbon footprint, and suggestions of way to reduce it. If it's a persuasive text, I need to know how to persuade someone. I need to write what people can do to revert the situation. Then finalize the text and include the features. from the persuasive text from exercise 2, I'll show you in a minute, and then design and create the final version of your infographic with text and images. Today, there are so many tools that you can do that. Canva has free education program. So if you register to Canva and register your school, you get access to all the premium features as an educational account. And then when you have these features, you can add your students, you can import your class, and you can give them the assignment and they can share it with you, and you can see everybody working on the infographic at the same time. Oh, my students don't use technology. That's okay. Cut them up, make the infographic with paper, with poster cards. So there are so many ways that you can do this and create an infographic, and all of this planning is already done for you. You don't have to create it. It's already done for you in the Global Changer project. I've listed for you some of the components that are been working here in the project. So I see like identifying sustainable alternatives, innovating for sustainable development, acting as a global citizen, holding self and others to account. The school that I worked for previously, when we started recycling, my students were like the recycling patrol police. So if you put something wrong in the wrong bin, they would come say, hey, that's not paper, that's plastic. You put it in the wrong bin. So they're going to hold themselves and others accountable as well. And then if you say, wow, Rebecca, there's no English here, it's just content, we're just working with content. No, we're also working with language, but we're using language with context and with a purpose. There is no better way to teach it than teaching with context and purpose. Why should I write a persuasive text? Because I want to persuade someone to change their behavior. What better way for me to learn how to write a persuasive text? And Global Changer, the material the authors have given students. So what are the elements that make, what are the key features of a persuasive text? So repeat keywords, use rhetorical questions, include strong adjectives. So they're going to look at the model and then they're going to see, and then when they write their own, am I repeating keywords? Am I including strong adjectives? Am I explaining the process? So they're going to check these boxes and see if their infographic has all of this to convince someone. Are you being persuasive enough? And then check grammar, spelling, and punctuation, and practice pronunciation of any difficult words. So it could be something that you can put on the wall. It could be something that they can present. They can have a presentation. I'd like to share with you some other ideas of projects that I've done and that you can use to incorporate sustainability in your classroom. So using this material, Global Changer, is a fantastic way. And here are a couple of other ideas that you can do. So, where's my mouse? There we go. Okay, so this was a project where my students, when we were talking about plastic pollution. So I'll give you the whole narrative. We started working with biomes. We started working with biomes around the world. Then we started working with climate change and other issues. And then we talked about plastic and plastic pollution. And my students got really emotional seeing the ocean full of plastic. And then we decided to have a campaign where my students made posters. They were younger students. They were fifth graders. And then they created these posters on Canva. Each group created their own poster. And then they said, how can we help people to use less plastic? And then we did with the art teacher, they created their own eco bags and they gave it as an end of the year present to their teachers. That was a gift to their teachers. So it was such a collaborative project. So I worked with the science teacher, and it was all in English. And with the art teacher, they came up with the designs. They painted it with stencils. So it was a lovely project and they took action. They were so proud of it. I stopped using plastic bags at the supermarket because I was so moved by their action, and I said, "No, I need to make a change myself. I need to learn this too." And so I'm always with my eco bag when I go to the supermarket. So giving that example as well. Another idea is when we have global events about sustainability. So in 2021, we had the COP26, which is the environmental conference that is held in different places. This one was held in Glasgow in the UK. And then they created the Forest of Promises. This was so beautiful. It was a global event. And then we talked about sustainability, and my students wrote a promise on a leaf that they found on the floor. Okay, we didn't take the leaves off of the tree. That leaf that they found on the floor, and they wrote what was their promise to the environment. So it says, I promise to remove, like I said for you guys, the charger from the plug, from the outlet. I promise to save water. They promise to take shorter showers, to not buy as many things, to not waste food. So I gave them creative freedom, and then we hung that and we made our tree, and that was shared around the globe as the Forest of Promises. And this was during the global event, the COP26. And another one is using current events, right? So when we talk about current events, I found this today. I actually had another story here, but this one came out today. Look at this, September 21st, the Washington Post. It came out today, this afternoon, and it says South America, particularly Brazil, will experience a scorching end to winter. Record-breaking heat is possible as soon as Thursday afternoon, with the worst of this round to come from about Thursday to next Tuesday. So we can bring this into the classroom. Oh, but my students don't understand. The Washington Post is too complicated. Take the article, put it on ChatGPT, ask for it to adapt for the age appropriate. There's no more excuse. So, or you can pre-read it, scaffold the vocabulary before, teach the students new words that they can learn, teach them the difference between Fahrenheit and Celsius. And then, why is it so hot in Brazil? Why did Europe have record-breaking temperatures this year? What's happening in the world? What's happening in the world? So you can teach them what is a heat wave. You can teach them and then ask them to reflect on it and use this current event to talk about sustainability. So there are so many ways that you can incorporate sustainability into your classroom, especially environmental sustainability. You can do experiments. I've done a global warming experiment with my students, which was fantastic. I can share in another webinar with you guys this experiment, a science experiment, and they really love it because they can see what happens, and then you can bring facts behind that, and they learn more vocabulary, and they are truly engaged, and they feel motivated to take care of the environment and of the planet that they live in. And just to close off our sessions, our key takeaways here are that sustainability in the English language teaching, in the English language classroom, involves integrating environmental, social, and economic topics into language education. And it's important that we give students the knowledge and the skills to address these global challenges and become responsible as global citizens. And language learning and sustainability education are mutually beneficial. So they foster critical thinking, empathy, and intercultural competence. So it's good for the language learning, it's good for sustainability education, and it's good for society as a whole. And I brought you a phrase from a former First Lady of the United States, Madam Lady Bird Johnson, said this in the 1960s, The environment is where we all meet, where we all have a mutual interest. It is the one thing all of us share. So if we can teach this to our students, if we can teach them that this is the place where we as a society have in common, we as a society are going to share what is important to us. I think this composes our responsibility as a teacher in helping our students become a global citizen, become global citizens, and become aware that as a society, as mankind, we all share the environment and we need to take care of it. This is my bibliography. If you'd like to take a screenshot of that, and feel free to write in the chat if you have any questions. Don't know how I'm doing on time, but thank you so much for being here and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Perfect timing, Rebecca. Thank you so much for this inspiring and with lots of examples that you brought us. I'm checking here in the Q&A. I don't see any questions, but participants, we still have time if you want to send any question. I just want a very, very good quote, indeed, Rebecca.
Isn't it? Isn't it? And it's so relevant right now.
Exactly, yes. I saw a comment here from Gislaine in the chat. She is telling us that they hosted the ocean race in Itajaí with their
Wow.
public schools, and they are working there with it. And also in
Wow, that's
Blumenau,
fantastic.
her students used to have week goals with preservation actions. Isn't it interesting?
Wow, that's amazing. We should have like a community where we share these initiatives, right,
Exactly.
Katja? We motivate each other and share experiences. That's wonderful. Congratulations, you guys.
Now we have a question. Are you able to access the Q&A tool also?
Yes, I am.
Rebecca?
Yeah, yes, I am.
From Gabriela Simões. I have a concern, and I hope it doesn't come across as don't do anything as individuals. Thinking about carbon footprint is important and all, but statistics show that there are other factors impacting the environment in a much more negative and intense way. Farming consumes much more fresh water than the population, not to mention the usage of toxic substances, especially in developing countries. A very, very large proportion of plastic found in seas and oceans comes from industrial fishing equipment. Batteries of electronics are horrible for the environment from start to end, from the extraction of mineral resources to discarding. Isn't it important to encourage students to think critically about these issues and come up with ways to care and act to demand governments and companies for real commitment to environment preservation? And if so, how much could we do that and not alarm families too much? Thank you for your question, Gabriela.
Thank you, Gabriela. Yes, I am aware of all of these statistics. As I said, I'm a very enthusiastic person about sustainability. So, what I think is, how do we adapt this to a language that makes sense for the age that we're teaching? We're not going to talk about water consumption by farmers to primary learners, or maybe depending on the secondary learners. This is a debate for older learners. We need to respect their capabilities at age by age. However, I think that when we start giving children and teenagers the opportunity to reflect on their own behavior and think about how they can make, when they get older, they will ask this from world leaders. So Greta Thunberg didn't become Greta Thunberg out of the blue. She had parents who were really environmentally conscious. She had teachers who supported her. She read books. So this is how she got there. So the first thing is, how do we start from us? How do we start from us? With the little child is, okay, when you're brushing your teeth, you need to close the tap. You need to close the faucet. You can't have it open because it's going to waste water. When you're taking a shower, we need to take a quick shower. So we teach these small things to our children, and they will grow up being more aware. And when they are more aware, they will demand this from world leaders as well. Do you agree, Katya?
Totally. Thanks for your comments and ideas, Rebecca. I think we run out of time. We already have in the chat the link for the feedback and also the link for the recordings in the YouTube channel. We would like to thank you a lot, Rebecca. It was amazing. And I saw lots of positive comments about your presentation too.
Thank you. I was happy to share it. I'm excited to make this community. We should think about making a community around the Cambridge framework
Great.
and how we are creating initiatives, right?
Let's keep this conversation.
Very
All
good.
right. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you, teachers. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you soon.